We've had tremendous success. It's just, there's a tendency to kind of go with the flow, and I'm not a go with the flow kind of guy. All I know is, people say you're only as good as your last album. That's true. I would be naive to think that people aren't going to compare and contrast. And, if you chart the path of the band musically over 7 or 8 years, it's pretty radical. And it's going to be even more apparent with this album.
A Door signals a new era both musically and personally for the Chicago-based Smashing Pumpkins, who've had a roller coaster 10-year journey. They began on the hot indie label Caroline Records, where they were at first labeled a retro psychedelic rock band. But even their first album, Gish, showed this was a band with its own trademark sound. But their rough-edged, loud-soft dynamics, intertwined around Corgan's highly personalized lyrics, would inevitably find them lumped into the grunge scene, brewing due west in and around Seattle, Washington. Like the songs of these quintessentially American minor-key mope rockers, the Pumpkins' music became part of a collective rallying cry for unsatisfied Gen Xers. But for all the visceral sincerity in the music, this emotionally charged scene lasted no longer than any other influential pop music movement.
In 1993, when we were in full rock swing, I could see it coming already. It made me really sad because I wanted that feeling, that euphoria. I stood on the stage and watched Pearl Jam in 1991 play, and the euphoria of what they were doing was so overwhelming that you couldn't imagine it got any better. And then we would go up on stage after them, and it was intense, but in a totally different way. The energy was so amazing. It would make you cry because you just didn't want it to change. People took the whole early 90s thing as this kind of negative rat, throwing a tantrum. But what it was an energy that say, I can't take this the way that it is, that kind of rebellion against suburban America.
And like any scene, say the psychedelic Haight-Ashbury scene of the 60s or the punk phenomenon a decade later, the grunge hype catapulted countless calculated posers to stardom, whiners and grinders sporting flannels, jeans, and perfectly unwashed hair.
If you want to listen to some band that sounds like Nirvana and try to get that kind of Nirvana rush back, great. If you want to try to get that old Pumpkins like rush back, that's great. But those times are over, and everybody just has to kind of own up to it. Would you like just to play Zero again?
Yeah, let's do it a couple more times. My hands aren't bleeding enough yet.
Second day of the studio, the complaining begins.
To Corgan, if the music was destined for dilution, he would single-handedly attempt to control its legacy. In 1995, the Pumpkins would try to capture the spirit of the music they had already created in one fell swoop. A 28-track double album designed to serve as the end of a musical era for the band, and by extension, the so-called alternative culture.
Remember when we were doing all those interviews and we were saying, that's it, like the rock thing is done. We're reaching the final limits of what people would know us to be able to do, especially in a rock sense. So in our mind, we wanted to do an album that would be the final encapsulation of what people would know as like the Smashing Pumpkins rock style, whatever. We were saying rock was done, and we were done kind of as a rock band in the traditional sense of the word. So we announced that even right when Melancholy was coming out.
The magnitude of the double album led critics to question whether Corgan's motives were merely ego-driven. Some worried the Pumpkins might be trying to usher in a new era of progressive rock excess.
When people heard we were going to do a double album, there was that kind of initial resistance to the idea of the pomposity of it, It's a lot to ask somebody to sit in modern-day society and take in 2 hours of music.
I think it's always sort of been a challenge to try and really take in everything that we're trying to do.
But fans new and old went along for the ride. Melancholy was an across-the-board success. The double album sold 6 million copies, won a Grammy, and received a whopping 7 MTV Video Music Awards.
We're very proud to be an alternative band. I know that word has been kind of bulked into the ground, but that's what we come from. So we're very proud of this.
Amidst all the success, however, the seductions of the rock and roll lifestyle took a tragic toll on the band. During a tour stop in New York, drummer Jimmy Chamberlin, who had a history of drug problems, and touring keyboardist Jonathan Melvoin were using heroin in a hotel room. The next morning, Melvoin was dead of an overdose, and the Pumpkins' future was left hanging in the balance, but not for long. Soon after, Chamberlin would be fired.
I mean, I'll say honestly that even though Jimmy's no longer in the band, he still is in the band. His presence and his spirit and his humor is still very much a part of the band. He's just not around anymore. And that's by choice. We still love him, and we still think about him often, but the issues that are involved with Jimmy are much bigger than rock and roll. If anybody questions the band that we are now without him, all I'll say is, fine, so be it. It's just a rock and roll record. If we're not the band that we used to be, then we're not. But we still feel that it was the right thing to do for Jimmy. Maybe it wasn't the right thing to do for the Smashing Pumpkins. Maybe it wasn't the right thing to do for the Smashing Pumpkins fans. And certainly, we're living all the problems from it now. But, you know, we love Jimmy and we put Jimmy first. And hopefully he understands that. I think I've grown tired of people looking at my songs through me. My whole point all along was, by talking about what I understood, I was trying to speak for everybody. So for every person that beat up on me for being, you know, a dramatic, overbearing, you know, child who hadn't quite grown up, there's somebody who said, you know, if it wasn't for you, I would have killed myself. But just reading these lyrics or hearing these songs, I knew somebody else had gone through the same thing. There was nobody I could really relate to on a lyrical level. So I think I started from a very obtuse end and kind of almost afraid to say what I really wanted to say and disguising how I really felt in like weird rhymes and riddles. And I got very frustrated with that. So you can imagine what happened then when on Siamese Dream, out comes the pen, and it goes into Mommy and Daddy, and everyone goes, where the did this come from, you know? And what's your problem? And next thing you know, I'm all angry man.
The world is a vampire.
I mean, in a lot of ways, like, people have tried to make some of my songs more personal than they really are. And then on the other end, they've totally misinterpreted things that were very personalist and kind of these universal statements. You know, like when I sang, you know, the world is a vampire, I wasn't singing about everybody else. I was singing about myself and the world that I lived in. I think the person closest to where I've ended up is probably John Lennon, like a semi-confessional, but in a bigger world sense kind of way. You're talking about yourself, but you're really talking about the world.
Speak to me in a language I can hear.
The things I talk about are not, there's nothing foreign about them. Isolation, desperation, ambition, loneliness, happiness, joy, seeking truth. I mean, these are universal themes. I mean, this goes back to Homer. I mean, and I don't mean Simpson.
As the album title suggests, Adore finds Corgan exploring an age-old topic, love. And while the songwriter continues injecting his real-life feelings and passions into his music, he's also expanded his subject matter to include fictitious tales as well.
I think when you talk about the concept of love, you know, people get these kind of like cherubs and hearts and people, you know, slinging bows kind of thought. To me, it's more about the responsibility of love and how people abuse love and use love for better and for worse. It's just, you know, 14, 15 different takes on the same subject. You know, one song deals about how a woman will, in order to get love, she'll basically give up her body. How people want love so badly that they'll literally cut off their own feelings. So basically, they love somebody so much that they're willing to let themselves die.
You love him.
There are about 4 or 5 songs that are very close to my heart and move me very much. Like, I can't even listen to them without being, bursting into tears. So I try not to listen to them in public very often.
Who am I to need you when I'm down?
There are some songs that I relate to very personally, and there's another song that is just like a storyline, and we don't do a lot of that usually, but it's a really beautiful, haunting story.
Like an actor directing himself, Corgan took on the tedious role of producer on Adore. It was an endeavor that had both pros and cons.
I was thinking maybe it'd be good just to have a guitar like that, and almost kind of bubble it under like another rhythm. I definitely gained the kind of internal freedom to just pursue whatever I wanted to pursue to its nth degree. So if I wanted to run a loop through 7 different guitar pedals, there was no one there to say, are you sure you don't want to use 6? But certainly in other areas, it's hard to do things like vocals on your own.
If you have to go, don't say goodbye.
You have to be hypercritical, so it's like on one hand, you're trying to be sensitive and open and sing, and then you have to turn around and then go, oh, that's not good enough. So you're beating yourself up back and forth.
One day I'll follow you and see you on the other side.
You should listen to that.
Let me hear that, and let me hear the other one. It's like, what do people see when they look in the mirror? Imagine doing that for 6 months on end, musically, and then it's like, school or something. It's like, imagine if you were your own boss at school. You said, 1 o'clock, I want to get out. I listen to a guitar part and I go, it's good enough. And then 6 months later, I'm freaking out because it's completely out of tune. But on that particular day, I was feeling kind of lazy, so I just skipped on to the next thing. It's that kind of thing. When people ask what this album was like, I use the word arcane because I think that seems to sum up the music best. It's kind of like music from the past, but done in a futuristic way. There's natural elements on the album, and there's synthetic elements on the album. It's like taking all the textures of all past music and trying to apply it to a kind of a new song form.
Definitely the computers and loops and drum machines is a big part of the different kind of sound, and trying to stay away from typical pumpkin cliche things that we do.
The music is very beautiful and sort of timeless. I don't think it will ever be dated sounding. It's just beautiful music.
Adore marks the Pumpkins' first full-length studio album without the rhythmic drum fills of Jimmy Chamberlin. To fill in, they brought on some guest percussionists like Beck's Joey Waronker and former Soundgarden drummer, now on board with Pearl Jam, Matt Cameron. Still, Chamberlain's absence had a marked impact on the band.
I think initially it really limited us because we suddenly didn't really know how to play. You achieve a language, with somebody, and then when that person is not there, the language between, everyone is not the same. This album really is almost like the beginning. It's very similar to how we were before Jimmy joined the band. It's like we went back to where we originally were 10 years ago. It's the language of that early part of the band came back like immediately. So that's kind of where the album begins, really. Probably the most defined song in that particular way is a song called Shame on the album. I took out the old little drum machine, we've had for like 8 years, and just programmed one beat, and we just started playing.
You're gonna walk on hell.
That probably is the moment on the album that convinced me that this was the direction that we were supposed to be going in. And it's got that same kind of loose, hypnotic quality that the band had 10 years ago.
There's a simplicity to it that reminds me of the style of the things on Gish, a sort of purity.
It's a really good song. It has a really good spontaneous band feel to it. And I guess it kind of harkens back to our early days, so it's a really cool track, but, I don't know, they're all really good tracks.
In addition to the familiar drum machines, Corgan has also been introducing more synthetic soundscaping into the Smashing Pumpkins repertoire on songs like I, which was featured on David Lynch's Lost Highway soundtrack. And on The End is the Beginning is the End, from the Batman and Robin soundtrack. Still, Corgan's pursuit of incorporating technology into the Pumpkins' music was only grudgingly embraced by Darcy.
Her reaction at that particular time was, you know, what is this concept of just like, okay, let's just hook up the synthesizers? Basically what she was trying to say is, what's the heart and soul in what you're trying to get at? Are you doing this because it's just something different, or is it because it's something you really want to do?
I just prefer to do the things as much as possible in an organic way. I know it's much easier if you want to throw some strings down, to just do it on the computer, but I just prefer the real thing. Call me old-fashioned.
I think now that she's heard where my interest in it lies, with everything from I to Batman to the stuff that ends up on this album, I think she's seen me kind of find what my interest in it really is. You know, we haven't lost her identity in trying to add new textures and sounds to the band.
Corgan was also interested in adding new surroundings for the recording of Adore. The band left the blistering winter of Chicago for the warm sun of Los Angeles and a less public rock and roll existence.
I just found that the life I was living in my hometown of Chicago wasn't really, is bigger than the person that I am. If you come out here, you know, the land of rape and honey, it's like you're third on the list behind movie stars and TV stars, you know. I mean, you know, like the fifth guy on Frasier is more important out here than any of us, so it's great. You know, we go out and nobody really even cares.
I like the weather, and I had this rental car, and I would have chai tea and order organic carrot juice, and I did wear some white clothing at one point. I was pretty far gone.
I knew that it would either fix things and make it better and we would sort of rise to the occasion, or else it would just fall apart completely. In the end, I think it was a little bit of both.
So, what lies beyond melancholy? Still more music. And hordes of live performances that fans are sure to adore. In terms of the future, the band seems comfortable with their tried and true philosophy. Accept the past and embrace the unknown.
It is pretty amazing, you know, for any band to be together for more than, you know, 5 or 6 years, let alone 10. You know, as long as everything moves forward, it always seems pretty good.
Did I ever imagine that I'd be sitting here talking with you right now about these things in the situation that I'm in now? Yes, I just didn't. We kind of took a very roundabout way of getting here. But I think it was the best route. And I don't think you could change it, because the band wouldn't be what it is if you did.
We love our band, and we're very proud of the music that we make. And we'll fight for it, you know. If you don't like it, you know, we'll be the first ones to tell you to f*** off. But we're lucky people. I mean, we live under, like, lucky stars. All our dreams have come true, and more so. We've got to meet many of our heroes and play in front of millions and millions of people. So millions and millions of records been part of our culture and our generation. I mean, I won't bemoan that at all.